DBT, Emotion Regulation 4. In this module, we're focusing on 3 ways to change unwanted emotions: checking the facts, opposite action, and problem solving. Today we'll look at opposite action. Like all of the techniques we've been learning about, it takes a lot of practice to be able to use it skillfully. As we've mentioned in the past few sessions, every emotion has an action urge. It makes you want to do something. Every emotion can be very helpful, and for every emotion there's a right time and a right context for it to be felt. Even anger can be very helpful. For example, if someone threatens you and you feel anger, the anger actually helps you to keep yourself safe by defending yourself. Emotions can also be unhelpful, however, if they stop you from living life the way that you want to live it, or from living in accordance with your values. Not only do emotions cause actions, actions also cause emotions. The idea behind opposite action is that it can help to deal with distressing emotions by setting into motion an action that is helpful, not harmful. So if your emotion is not getting you to where you want to go, or if it's interfering with you living life the way you want to live, it's not on your side. This means if you feel a certain way and it's not helping you, you need to do opposite action. Doing this counteracts the suffering you might otherwise feel because of the distressing emotion. In simple terms, opposite action means acting opposite to an emotion's action urge. For example, if we're angry, there are many actions that we might take to express our angry feelings. But if the action we take is one that's opposite to the emotion we feel, like walking away from a situation when we are angry, or distracting ourselves with something nice, then we've put our energy into something that's eventually going to make us feel better. In this way, we not only reversed our action, so we walked away instead of yelling at someone, but we also began to make a change in our angry feelings. We didn't escalate or heighten our feelings, but we did something that made the feelings decrease by putting something positive in their place. It's important to know that this skill isn't about trying to suppress our emotions. We're using that angry feeling to take a different action. The result of this will be a gradual change in our emotions. So we need to use opposite action when our emotions don't fit the facts, or when acting on our emotions is not effective. Acting opposite to these emotions will change the emotions if it's done repeatedly and all the way. It's important to note that this won't always work. If your emotion is justified by the situation, it'll be very hard to try to change it by acting opposite. You'll need problem solving. Opposite action will work, however, when the emotion is not justified by the situation. Opposite action is an effective way to change or reduce unwanted emotions when your emotion doesn't fit the facts. Some people might have trouble in life because they take action on their emotions' urge before using wise mind and other mindfulness skills to slow the process down and respond rather than react. Most effective treatments for emotional disorders ask clients to reverse the expression and action components of problem emotions. Some psychotherapists believe this is why these treatments work. For example, behavioural activation, exposure-based treatments, and effective treatments for anger. An example of opposite action might be if we're feeling very depressed and low, and like no one wants us around, and we might as well just stay in bed. A way to act opposite to the emotions is to get ourselves up and to do something, whether that's go for a walk, go to the shop, or visit a friend. So we're not denying our emotion, but we're challenging it by acting opposite to it. Instead of staying at home in bed, we're getting up and going out. We might not see big changes, but little by little we'll notice changes in the way we feel. So when does opposite action work best? Well, when knowing the facts about a situation doesn't work to change your emotional responses, then opposite action can be really effective. For example, if you know something's not dangerous, but you're still very afraid of it because of past experiences, opposite action might help you to see past that fear. When your emotion or its strength or the length of time it lasts doesn't fit the facts, opposite action can be effective. If the emotion was justified, we'd use problem solving, which we'll be covering in the next session. Opposite action can also be effective when your emotion or its strength or the length of time it lasts is not effective for meeting your goals in the situation. Sometimes your emotions might fit the facts very well, but experiencing and expressing the emotion might do you little good and might even cause you harm. In considering opposite action, it's important to think whether your emotional responses are effective. Opposite action can also be effective when you're avoiding what needs to be done. Sometimes the issue isn't really whether an emotion fits the facts, but rather whether acting on your urges has the outcome of avoiding doing things that you need to do. If you find that you're avoiding doing something for this reason, opposite action can be really effective. So how do we do opposite action? Let's think about it step by step. Firstly, we need to identify and name the emotion you want to change. So ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling? And try to rate its intensity. Then we need to check the facts. Is there any chance you might have misinterpreted the situation? And does your emotion fit the facts of the situation? Thirdly, we need to identify and describe your action urges. Focus on what you feel like doing because of your emotion. What is the emotion making me want to do? Next, you need to ask wise mind, is expressing or acting on this emotion effective in this situation? Then you need to identify opposite actions to your action urges. Don't suppress your emotional experiences or feelings. Then you need to do opposite action all the way. So opposite posture, facial expression, thinking, what you say and how you say it. Halfway opposite action doesn't work. And finally, you need to continue acting opposite until the emotion goes down. Some examples of the primary emotions and their action urges might be for fear, so the action urge might be to run away or avoid, and the opposite action would be to approach the situation over and over again, so don't avoid. For anger, the action urge might be to attack or defend yourself, so the opposite action would be to gently avoid or be kind. For sadness, perhaps the action urge might be to withdraw or isolate yourself, so the opposite action would be to get active. Sometimes it might not be appropriate to use opposite action. If you're afraid because you're in an unsafe situation, then you need to pay attention to that fear. Do not go into the unsafe situation. So in today's session, we've covered a lot on opposite action. Next week, we'll look at the final way to change our emotional responses, which is problem solving.